Hello and welcome everybody. It's Ukraine Update here on the Shills, where I do believe we're going to have quite a few things to go over. There are some armored vehicles heading. There's been some promises made. The orcs have been lobbing some shit over the fence and all kinds of stuff. So let's turn right over to fellow Shill operator Starsky to take us through some of the bigger headlines here.
Hello, family. Operator Starsky here. Yeah, it was a busy week in terms of good news and bad news. We had some massive missile strike this week, as you probably know. And prior to that, we had a drone strike in the night. And we received some promises, let's say, about those tanks. We know that Germany started this. Actually, they gave permission to re-export their tanks, Leopard tanks, and also they promised to send Ukraine 14 Leopard tanks. And other countries already started doing the same, so it had like a domino effect, you know. And also our American allies promised to send 31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine. Obviously, they found some solution to all the logistical problems and all the maintenance problems and things like that. So we expect those. It will take some time. And you probably remember General Milley, who was saying that it won't be an easy task, and probably that's what he meant. That we will have to deflect Russian second wave, Russian attack this spring, obviously, while receiving those tanks. And before they are here, there is basically no sense to start our counteroffensive without having strong armored fist to fight our enemy. So yeah, basically it makes sense. And also we just received information that Sumy Oblast was hit by Russian aircraft, and of course they hit a kindergarten and sports complex. We know that yesterday they hit Kostiantynivka. It's not far from Bakhmut, like a rail hub, and 14 people were wounded because of that. We also know that several people were killed, and we're talking about civilians. Also, there are rumors about F-16 fighters that are discussed as a help for Ukraine, but Ukrainian armed forces already debunked those rumors. Currently, we have absolutely no discussion with our partners regarding those F-16s. So first, we will see tanks, and of course, preparing pilots for F-16 fighter jets is completely different to preparing a crew for even for an Abrams tank. It takes much more time to train a professional to operate such aircraft. I would say it may take maybe 6, maybe 7 months. From what I know, there might be different numbers. That's why I might be wrong. Which makes me a perfect pilot for this aircraft, because I've spent 10,000 hours playing Microsoft Flight Simulator.
That would be amazing to have a go in one, wouldn't it? Oh my God. The Abrams tanks there, Starsky. No, I've heard reports that with intensive training regiment, or whatever you would call it there, some experts have said that Ukrainian crews should be up to speed inside of 3 months.
Ukrainian crew actually can master that like in 3 weeks, because that's what we do.
When you need to, and you have to, and you're intelligent enough to, I do believe you can accelerate that. That's where I was going. It's definitely going to be quicker, isn't it?
Of course, this is what we do all this time, because whenever we get some kind of weapon from our colleagues, usually we open a YouTube application, and we're searching all kinds of manuals, how to operate it, and we learn on the go, because we don't have much time, and because basically our life depends on this. That's what we did with M777s and yada yada. But
they've proven to be pretty successful in your hands, haven't they?
Oh yeah. But of course we understand that again, we trade, let's say, efficiency for time. It's not the way it's done in normal life, right?
Right.
But we don't have normal life at this moment.
No. And the Abrams, I mean, from what I understand, an Abrams tank up against even like a couple in the field of what Russia's fielding right now, you're just going to mow them down as soon as you get your hands on those things, aren't you?
Judging from the Operation Desert Storm, where Abrams tanks were massively effective versus Soviet-made tanks that were used by Iraqi forces.
Right.
Absolutely, because at some point there was a story when Iraqi forces lost some massive amount of their tanks to the NATO forces that were using Abrams in a single night. So of course it makes a big difference. Abrams tanks are much more better armed. They are kind of bigger than let's say T-80. Because Soviet tanks, they're made to be, kind of flat. They are kind of lower.
Right.
Yeah, but at the same time, they have better protection, and they have much more sophisticated equipment on board.
Yeah, and targeting and stuff. They're a lethal beast. And they move like a son of a bitch for a heavy thing too, don't they?
Yeah.
I think over 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Something like that, because they use the jet fuel, basically.
Yeah. It's crazy. I love the engineering in it. I love that kind of thing myself on a personal note. We have a couple of shout outs, so we should click over and see if Claire's ready here, and we could give a few people their dues.
Yes, we have a new member, Seth Count. Welcome to Showmaster. And also we have a super chat from the Sun Express. Somebody needs to give Alexander Samsonova her own Abrams tank and unleash her. That sounds like a good idea.
Indeed.
Thank you
And-
very much. Yeah.
And Seth, the new member, is actually a previous member, but he's one of those people that's having an issue with Google and systems and stuff. So it's more of a welcome back. But cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Seth. All right,
Indeed.
back-
So
all caught up.
yeah. Let's see now. The report, Starsky, with a couple of the attacks that happened, there was some like you said there, schools and whatnot. Do you think proof of this is going to put even more international pressure on Russia? And do you think it's just blowhard speak? Like, is all this yada yada doing anything?
Hopefully it will bring some results in let's say in the future, because of course they will be facing justice for what they did, and all those strikes on objects like schools, pediatric hospitals and clinics, they're all documented. And they are documented by international community as well. We're talking about the United Nations. So they will all be charged with that. Strikes on our power facilities are also documented. And Russian citizens will receive the bill for that. I promise. Because like nothing's gonna change for them anyways. For example, just a couple of days ago, they destroyed a pediatric clinic in Bakhmut with a missile, with a cruise missile. Interesting thing about that missile strike that happened. I'll be smoking, okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Interesting thing that about that missile strike that happened 2 days ago was that they used almost all kinds of their missiles they have, including their hypersonic missiles that were aimed at power facilities in Kyiv and Zaporizhia. And by Zaporizhia, we're obviously talking about the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The explosions near the power plant in the area of power plant were reported by the international observers as well, but of course Russia doesn't care about international observers. They only care to go all in versus Ukraine and sacrifice millions of their soldiers for Putin, basically for nothing, for toilets.
Yeah, for toilets and a couple of kilometers of dirt. There was a question from Jean-Marc Pagan Owl. Can you ask Starsky if his helicopter is working? His latest video, Bogdan 1, German Shepherd 0.
So as an experienced kit builder, I can tell you that it's gonna take time, of course. Because everything must be cleaned, there must be rivets installed and things like that. The first thing, I gotta find a pilot seat. I gotta clean it out from remains of other pilots, and do things like that. So yes, eventually they will work. I will have one rotor helicopter instead of two rotors, because I can assemble one rotor from two, yeah. When I make it, when I have my flight, I will record a video of that.
Awesome.
If you can find any of the turbines, where it's really high heat, I think the alloys that are used like in America for jet turbines, where all the combustion is about 5% iridium, maybe you could just hawk those and buy a plane.
I don't really think that any amount of money that I make from selling those parts are enough to buy even, I don't know, like a
stick of gum.
yeah, something like that. Because from what I saw, the most expensive part of Ka-52 is actually its rotor blades, because they are made completely out of this carbon fiber. There's multiple layers of carbon fiber that were compressed into those rotor blades. Dennis Davidov told me that it's very effective, but hilariously expensive. Not sure if I can get a lot of money for selling those. But another thing, like, I was asking everybody regarding those wrecks, and first I was asked by journalists, like, what will you do with those? I'm like, no idea. And she's like, do they belong to Antonov Airlines because they're on the territory of Antonov Airfield, or do they belong to the National Guard? And I was asking everybody, and nobody could tell me like whom those wrecks belong to. That's why they belong to me now.
So the Russian helicopters are so cheap, they don't use any of the good metals in them.
Well, their turbine look more or less intact from what I saw. But again, because it's situated on top of the helicopter, probably that's the latest part that gets wrecked after the crash. In the second Ka-52, the one where I found a mouse last year, the oh my god, what is yeah, so there was this control panel, and its altimeter stuck at showing 0 meters above the ground. So it's like when it crashed, its altimeter was still working. And I'm not sure, was it like pressure based altimeter or like radio altimeter or whatever, but it was showing precisely 0 meters above the ground.
Can I follow on a quick question from that? There's one here from if I manage to unscroll it. There we go. Jean-Marc, can you ask Starsky if his helicopter is working? His latest video, Bogdan 1, German Shepherd 0.
I just answered it.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was that I was talking about. My earpiece is messed up. My apologies. In that case, go to the other one then. Did you finally get your aircraft kit put together?
Yeah, as I said, it's gonna take some while, some rivets, some cleaning, of course, paint job, weathering, and things like that. It's well weathered already, I can tell you that. But yeah, it's gonna take some while.
Super, marvelous. Oh, did somebody just come back? Wanted to say something? Nobody. Okay, marvelous. I'll carry on then. It's from CF in the chat. Hello to you. Can Ukraine hit the locations from where those missiles were launched?
Currently, it's impossible. Currently, from what I know, we might have some small amount of long-range stuff that works, and we're talking about probably some drones, missiles, not so much. If we had those long-range missiles for our HIMARS systems, then we would obviously be able to strike those sites. But that's what we want, basically, because we want to punish Russian bombers that are being stored in the airports, actually not too far from our borders. We want to punish Russian artillerists who launched those cruise missiles from the ground and things like that. Hopefully, at some point of time, that will be possible. I like my biggest dream is obtaining some kind of drone, like air-to-air missile carrying drones that fly into the Russian controlled territory and shoot down those MiGs carrying hypersonic missiles and their bombers. But like it's possible, of course, and I know for sure that Baykar Makina, the Turkish developer, they work over such drone, but for example, shooting down their bombers that launch their missiles from the area of the Caspian Sea will be kind of difficult, because they are based on the north, somewhere near Murmansk, I believe. There is this air base called Alenia and Engels. So they are flying from Alenia, which is at north, all the way to the Caspian Sea, launch their missiles, and then return back. Engels is based, I think, a bit to the south of Moscow. They also fly. They also take off from that base, fly to the Caspian Sea, launch their missiles from there. But yeah, we need the missiles that can reach those air bases. And by the way, if those missiles will be able to reach Engels, they will be also able to reach Moscow, which is like a double bonus.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Could I just have one last little throw out there? But I'll just before Claire. Is that okay?
Mhm.
So there was one thing that I wanted to ask as well, because I did find this pretty hilarious. I didn't even realize it was called this. So there's a Guardian article that I saw that says, "Do I have to get on my knees?" This quote from this Russian person who's called up the Ukrainian hotline to surrender. And it's apparently called the "I Want to Live" hotline.
Yeah. Do I have to get on my knees?
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually, because obviously he cannot stage his surrender, which is very important. We know that Russians do that, violating all kinds of military etiquette and law. So, like, why not? But I'm very happy that this line works. There's quite a few Russians who don't want to die on Ukrainian soil, and one of the viewers left a commentary on my channel saying that he doesn't understand how can Ukrainians actually celebrate deaths of Russian invaders. And I can tell you, it's very easy when you imagine that your kids will have to continue what you're doing now.
Exactly.
That's why you are celebrating what you do. And unfortunately, we're put in the situation when we actually have to do this because
Yeah. It's not like Ukrainians would be jumping for joy at the deaths of Russians if they hadn't invaded. If everybody was left to their own devices, you wouldn't be happy to see Russians die. It's just you don't want them there. And if you have to shoot them to get them gone, you do.
Absolutely. The reality is that we are being invaded by Russians. And currently, the situation looks like this. If we eliminate quite a lot of their personnel, there's a chance that they will retreat and we will win this war. So eliminating their personnel, actually bringing those, returning those black bags back to their homes in big amounts is our main goal right now. So it's like it's like our main mission at this point. That's why giving up to Ukrainian forces is the best thing they can do. Otherwise, they will be eliminated without hesitation, because this is our main goal of decreasing the number of enemies.
Times Square after the end of World War II will be every square inch of Ukraine when you win.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm.
So should we go to Claire for some shout outs then?
Okay.
Guys, 1 minute. I gotta change my cigarette. It died. Just one
Oh.
second. I'll be back.
Sure.
Okay.
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 I'm sorry.
No worries. No worries. Let's see. We don't want to do any shout outs that are directly asking them a question then. That would
let
be
me just check
stupid.
them. Let me read them both. Let me just go over
Yeah.
before we start reading.
Yeah.
They're both directed. Yeah. I know what's
Yeah,
finished.
actually, you can chill behind my back when I'm out because I can hear everything. So
Oh, we could. Okay. Oh, we missed an opportunity to talk about you when you could
Yeah.
hear us. Damn. Oy. Okay. No, it's true. All right. So for the shout outs, here we go. So thank you for. All right. From B.R. Bolden for 50 Norwegian krone. Aren't Jordan phasing out their Challenger 1 tanks? Those should be bought and sent to Ukraine. Jordan has around 400 of them.
yeah, that's a nice amount. I'm not sure how's the situation there. Like if because we know that there were some clashes with Iranians, I believe, with the Iranian regime. I gotta learn more about this. I'm not an expert in Middle East, unfortunately. It's very far away
Yeah.
from me. Yeah,
It-
but I definitely gotta learn more about this.
Okay. From Zom 1103 for 10 US. Is it true that the Russians are mobilizing the wounded now? Also, what at point will they start mobilizing the dead? Maybe sticking skeletons in a few gunner seats. Ouch.
I tell you this: they already used dead, mobilized dead for things like staged referendums in the occupied territories and things like that. Actually, I heard from a guy in Kherson that said that the way they organized that so-called referendum was completely hilarious. Like they were their propagandist groups were driving around the city and stopping near residential buildings, and they were through speaker they were addressing residents and citizens of Kherson, saying that you have to join mighty Russia, you have to return to your historical cradle and things like
Jesus.
that. And
Wow.
people were shouting Slava Ukraini from their balconies, Slava Ukraini and fuck off.
Yeah.
So in the end, they brought a bunch of like small amount of people that looks big on the camera, but in reality, everything depends on angle. And those people were kinda representing the supporters of the Russian world in Kherson. However, actually, they arrived from Crimea, from that direction. And again, people were kind of shilling them right there at the scene, and in the end, they weren't allowed to come close to those pro-Russian Kherson citizens. Yeah. So later, it was all recorded on camera, like as Russia usually does since 2014.
Wow. Yeah. From Raven 7, who donated 10 Canadian. Hey, Shills and Starsky. I'm really jealous of Starsky's huge helicopter kit. I can't find them here. Seems to be all over Ukrainian sale. Let's hope armor comes as soon and as safely as possible. Brandon, Ukraine, doing so much. I guess that's his handle there. Thank you very much, Raven 7. From
Raven.
Autistic. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Raven, I'll tell you this. Actually, Ukraine is very, let's say, unique in this regard, because this is the only private helicopter kit that you can find on the market, and it's
What?
here in Ukraine, and basically, like in most cases, it's free.
That's a lovely perk. Okay. From Autistic Shill, a member for 6 months. Hello, Starsky, sending you positive vibes. Slava Ukraini. And we have one more member shout out from Godless Scummer. He would like me to remind you all which award Putin Award won recently on a YouTube channel, the Godless on Godless Scummer's YouTube channel. We do the See You Next Tuesday awards. Okay.
Yeah.
And Putin won as, you know, the See You Next Tuesday of the year. And actually, the war that he started was the event of the year that got the CUNT event of the year, which was a new category for this year. But I'm not saying the word. Y'all figure it out.
Yeah. Here, I'll give him the Golden Cock Award from us too.
Yes,
then.
yes, he got that too. Yes, he got
yeah.
that too. Although the See You Next Tuesday one is gold and it's pretty, you know. They kind of
cool.
go together, don't they? They kind of go together.
Yeah, they just might.
Okay.
They just might.
Thank you.
Oh, that was good. Yeah, thanks everybody. Where are we now? I'm totally lost because I needed a minute there.
I have a question from. I
Awesome.
do have a question, if that's okay. I was going to ask from someone in the chat. They had asked Starsky if there's still civilians in Bakhmut, if they still have any civilians there.
From what I know, there are some people who still live there. They are very hard to convince to move out. Usually, it's people from the rural areas who have like chicken, cattle, and things like that. And they're old and they literally have nowhere to go. And they are very, very hard to convince. Of course, nobody forcefully evacuates people. We do everything we can in order to persuade them that they have to leave and they will be taken care of. But sometimes it's very, very hard. I know personally because I participated in such things in 2015 in Marianka in Krasnohorivka, when there was this huge Russian attack in June, I believe. And some people are like, they're impossible to persuade. It's not because they like Russian world so much, it's just because they have nowhere to go. So some civilians are still there, still remaining there, as well as there was same situation in Rubizhne when our guys were there, Severodonetsk as well. There are such people. There are people from rural area, from suburban area who have like their private houses and some domesticated animals. So they just don't want to leave all that because they spent all their life there.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a catch-22. You don't want to force them to leave. You give them the opportunity they could, and they could have safety, but you can't really force people to do it. And you know, it's kind of, it is sad they have to leave everything, and I could see why they might want to be resistant to it and hold out a little. Well,
yeah,
it's a sad situation. Thank you. Boy.
Indeed. There was a good one here from Jim's Mind. A question: how will Ukraine deal with training on the new tanks and maintain pressure on the front line?
We know that a crew for each tank will have training outside Ukraine. Basically, our tankers will be brought to the US, to Germany, and train operating those tanks. Currently, we have more tankers than we have tanks. That's why it will not be a big problem for us, because tankers without tanks, basically, they are not involved in any action. So it will not be a problem at all. The problem is that those tanks will start arriving kind of late. Because Russians are preparing their big offensive maybe next month already. It can start in the end of the February, around 24th, like the last year. And We know that it's gonna take weeks, if not months, for those tanks to arrive, as well as training the crews and things like that. We needed those tanks actually last year during fights for Rubizhne and Severodonetsk and Mariupol, of course.
That's a big thing right now, isn't it, Starsky? All the political BS has, unfortunately, sure, they're coming, but they already needed to be.
Yeah.
It sucks. That part, the world still needs to grow up when it comes to political bickering. I mean, anybody out there who's a parent has seen their children do it in the playground, and that's just politicians in suits. Same thing.
Absolutely. And the other day, I remember the last time I was here, we were talking about those Russian terrorist supporters from the US, for example. And I was saying, they're all like, why can't Ukrainians just die? Because we're tired, Literally, 2 days ago, I was my mom always told me not to touch the shit, but I didn't listen to my mom, so I was surfing through some forums on the internet. I think you know what kind of forums I'm talking about, and there were people in the commentaries saying literally, it would be so great if Russia could finally defeat Ukraine so we could live in peace.
I like the other vision. Why doesn't them get a clue and just get the hell out of there where they don't belong? That would be better. That's easy.
Yeah, I think those people should definitely, at least once in their life, visit Voronezh or Khabarovsk and say something in English, actually, on the streets. They would love that. One thing, though, that they will not understand, unfortunately for them, is that you cannot defeat Ukraine. It's impossible. Everybody tried. Ottoman Empire tried.
Yep.
There is no Ottoman Empire. There's Ukraine.
Yeah. And they were not a group of wimps either. The Ottomans were like some serious bastards, man.
Oh yeah. Third Reich tried. There's no Third Reich, but there's Ukraine. Bolsheviks tried. There is no Soviet Union, but there's still Ukraine. And Ukrainians are too tough to handle, actually. And at some point, they will realize that. You got to take a look at our boxers.
Well, there's a great comment in the chat there. It's on the screen too. Aaron Reese, try to bury Ukrainians and they'll beat you to death with the fucking shovel.
Exactly.
And I'm gathering that those forums were populated with the World War II bad guys and the people who devote themselves to hate and nonsense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Their whole commentaries are the essence of this, hatred towards everything Ukrainian. It's so amazing.
So where are we here? I bet at this point, Dave's got a couple of questions that, we've covered some stuff that has to have gotten some reaction by now. Can Dave even speak?
Excuse me. I am struggling. Sometimes struggling to think as well. There was a question that was asking about whether Putin's been seen in public. I'm just trying to find some information on that. He does seem to have a number of doppelgangers. And there's been this thing about, one of them's been wearing like a high heel. Not like that. That'd be hilarious.
Of course not.
But I guess, yeah, I mean, the question would be, right, he obviously needs it. I don't know whether Zelensky would even have them or whether the information should be out there, but it's not too convincing.
Hmm.
It's like Putin is a kind of dictator that has time to search for boots with high heels, to search and have this casting, for his like doubles, right, and things like that. I think nobody in the world does that because like majority of people in the world are conscious people, and like what Putin does actually shows his misery. It's like the best demonstration, specifically those boots. Like, can you imagine what kind of leader would specifically order boots that make him look higher?
Our last president,
Oh my
he
god.
wore high heels, and he said that Vladimir Putin was a genius within not even 24 hours. So, shit together, squat together, or something.
No, it seems to be.
Yeah. Again, from those forums, I realized one thing, and I remember Commander asked me to talk about this on my last stream. We were talking about supporters of Ukraine and supporters of Russian terrorism, and we found some very interesting thing. Actually, everybody who supports Russian terrorism does that not because they are, admiring Ruski world, she, lapti, balalaikas, and vodka. It's because they hate Ukraine. And most of those people, of course, hate West. They hate America.
Oh,
Some
yes.
some of those people hate their own country, right? And they hate all the values that make us who we are, the free world. While people who support Ukraine, they do that not because they like Vyshivankas and our singers or whatever. They do that because they are open and humane and friendly and caring. They can feel our pain, and that's what unites them to support Ukraine. And it reminded me of a story. Actually, I don't think it's widespread on the West, but for some reason it's very popular here in Ukraine. And it's a story that comes from the Native American tribe of Cherokee, actually.
Oh.
And I would like to read it to you guys because it's so good.
Awesome.
And again, it explains perfectly what happens in the world around Ukraine. So an old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. His name is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued, the other is good. His name is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, kindness, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed.
I love that one so much.
That's striking. That's impactful. I really like that.
You look at
Well,
the people who've been the most miserable putzes, and the most miserable putzes openly peddle Russian dog shit.
Very much.
Yeah, very much so.
I I have a parenting thing for 2 minutes. A certain so and so standing at the steps and needs me. So I'm gonna leave it to Claire and Dave to direct us
Okay.
to somewhere, and I'll be right back.
Shenanigans. Okay, here we go. No.
Yeah, Amy.
Yeah.
I almost did that.
Yes. Do you want to start with a question, Dave?
I am terrified too. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So let me
If you've
just-
got one ready, sure.
I actually, yeah, I can, yes. A question for Starsky from Hobby Time. Any chance of doing a special show for some of the Ukraine model manufacturers, as we're supporting them by buying these kits, and would be interested in how they're doing? I believe he's talking about the helicopter kits, I believe.
Ukraine model manufacturers, yeah, could be a great idea. Actually, I think that we have some existing model manufacturers in Ukraine. We had a company that produces short takeoff and landing piston aircraft. They are popular in Australia, for example, for bush pilots, you know. But because my memory sucks, I cannot remember the name of those the company. But I think that yeah, we might have some.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And also from Flash One, Starsky, they want to know if you actually have a helicopter's license.
Actually, no, because I believe that there's nothing better than a fixed wing airplane that can actually fly without the help of a sophisticated computer installed on its board, like in modern helicopters. And it obeys laws of Newtonian physics, unlike helicopters. That's why personally I prefer airplanes, but after finishing this kit, I will probably switch to, you know, airplane kits.
Yeah. And just if one more, it's kind of like a statement and then a question related. The first is the statement that the helicopter that transported Putin made a crash landing yesterday, but Putin was not on it, according to Newsweek. And then a question from Father Alp stating that it is rumored that Putin has not been seen since January 18th. Do you have thoughts?
I think he was seen recently. He was meeting some Russian fascist youth, you know, and things like that. That currently they're called Unarmy. You know, there was like Hitler's youth in Nazi Germany, Hitlerjugend, and they have Russian youth. No, it's called Unarmia. It's like youth army, young army, basically the same thing. And he was meeting them, I believe, and he had some other meetings. Actually, he was spotted having some kind of either signs of Parkinson disease or something like that, or a stroke. During his latest interview, of course, I want to believe. We all pray and hope, but yeah, until we see him in hospital, his lifeless body, we will not celebrate.
Right. There was rumors. I mean, there's been a lot of in there about him looking pale, shaky, being not actually himself lately. So that's not.
I can understand that because, like, if all your life you dedicate your living to you know, fighting versus civilized world, and then you start the war that you absolutely believed that you were gonna win in 3 days, and then it lasts for a year, and you turn your own country into a freaking isolated nest of international terrorism, and the most sanctioned country in the galaxy, then yeah, if I was him, I wouldn't feel really good about it
No,
neither, but that's what he deserves.
it's true. It's hard to survive and get older with that kind of mentality that only the strongest are worthy, and no one else. It's only us and nobody else. I could see. I wouldn't want to be like that with when he gets his awakening. Commander, you have your hand up.
A few of the model companies in Ukraine are Condor and Ukraine and Antonov Enterprises. Just Google it. There's
Yeah,
quite a few of them. Give them some
Okay.
business.
Oh, thank you for that. Okay. Dave, do you have anything, or would you like me to go?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, if I may, just a general question. If there was one thing that you would do if you were sort of grand dictator, as it were, the one thing that would just really, really help you right now, what would it be?
If I was a dictator and I could do only one thing helpful,
barring the obvious, which is like take out Putin. Like if you could, could it be tanks?
Hire
Would
a
it be
sniper.
just take this particular city? Would it be just make sure that you defended this specific place? Would it be just make sure all children were protected? What would that be, that one thing that you would do?
It's a really hard question. As a military, I cannot answer it.
Yeah.
Here, we militaries, we already have this, like big problem with our job, and this problem is the same as in doctors, for example, or firefighters, is that we cannot save everybody, no matter how hard we try, and we can only do so much to protect people. That's the biggest problem for us as military people. There is nothing like magic cover or magic dome that we can use to protect cities from missiles and stuff. It takes some very, very serious work to organize mobile groups and intercept cities incoming at our cities, and intercept those drones and things like that. And we realize that if we fail, people will die. And sometimes we fail because we're human. So
That's right.
This is a big problem that we all share, together with doctors, again, who cannot save everybody because there are wounds that unfortunately cannot be treated, right, and things like that. So yeah, if I was a magician, a David Copperfield, if I was a David Copperfield, I would make Kremlin disappear, probably. He does it well, by the way.
Can I rephrase that then? Because it wasn't a very well worded question from me. What is the tipping point whereby everyone knows for a fact that Ukraine are taking their country back?
It's
That's a good one.
it's when we eliminate all the Russian terrorists and recapture all of our territories back. That's the only thing I believe. Because it cannot convince. Still, it will not convince everybody. There are people who say that even if Ukraine takes all its territories back, even if Crimea and Donbass are liberated from Russian fascists, it doesn't mean that Russia's gonna lose, and they say it on their TV, on their national TV in Russia. There are people who say, why don't you give up? You're losing. And I'm like, losing like Russians in Izium or in Kherson or in Hostomel or Chernihiv, Chernobyl,
Yeah.
Sumy, where else? Liman, whole northern Ukraine, basically. And people like, but they took Mariupol. You know, like some people are so stupid. The problem is some people really ditched geography lessons, and they
Indeed.
didn't do their home task. That's a big problem, actually. So the only reason is to win this war, liberate our territories, regardless of what they're saying, their state TV. But on the other hand, as a communications person, I understand that it's very, very important to fight at the informational front as well, to show them not through propaganda, but through public relations, the way we do that in the civilized world, that what they do is wrong, and they will
Right.
not win this war, no matter how hard they try. Ukraine is impossible to defeat.
I can't wait for everybody to know it too. We should turn to Claire for some shout outs, and then I have a question I want to pop at you myself here.
Okay. Well, let's start with Psalm 1103 for 10 US. Always interested in your propaganda videos, Starsky. Hope to see more in the future. You have a good way of explaining things and provide good current examples.
Thank you so much. It always makes me feel cringy when people call it propaganda. It's public relations, guys. Propaganda
Okay,
is
yeah.
like, yeah, it's you have to understand the difference, because
Mhm.
it's huge.
Mhm.
Propaganda is basically saying that 97% of Russian soldiers return home safe and alive.
Okay.
And things like that. 47 HIMARS systems were heroically destroyed by our cookers, using only handguns and and frying pans. That's propaganda. We don't do that shit for two reasons. First, it's very old and inefficient. We're like, our main target audience is not like sheeple, right? Who don't have education and things like that. Our target audience is like general public, and people who can watch YouTube, surf internet,
Mhm.
find information themselves, because it's important for human beings to be able to check facts, and provide them with all the necessary information from Ukraine, and show them why Russia's justifications for this invasion were BS. And another reason why we don't do propaganda is because it costs insane amount of money that we don't have. Russia has this money because Russia has a pipe, and
That's right.
they can drain this pipe a bit and throw those money into their propaganda, which actually they do very well, because one of the coolest things they invented was like mythology, like mythological design, we call it in Ukraine. It's like it's a very long topic, actually, but it's very, very interesting. And they created this mythology of Russian people, that basically, again, it's based on all of those values of the so-called Russian world, like Orthodox Russian religion, the only truth, the only true church in the world. Russians are chosen people. They have this cosmic energy and power of nature and things like that. Undefeatable Russian sportsmen. What else? The most sophisticated weapons in the world that have no analogs. And this no analogs is actually a big meme in like in the civilized world, and it sounds funny. It sounds like аналогов нет, which means no analogs, but at the same time, those words mix up into like I don't even want to translate it because it's very ugly. Believe me, and things like that. They have this mythology used everywhere, in the books, in music videos. They have this. Oh my God, I was making analysis for this singer. It's a very young boy who lives in Russia. He basically he mimics like Justin Bieber, I would say. And in one of his music videos, he was like, and all of his music is like kind of positive. It's very positive, you know. It's pop music, of course. It's very positive. It's about love and yada yada. And he looks very stylish, of course. And at some point, he's posing in one of his videos as a Russian Spetsnaz soldier with like AK and handguns, and he shoots hearts from his AK, like hearts, you know. Like when you know about this, when you know about the real message all this brings, you're watching those videos like, Jesus, it's genius. There's this statue. I tell you this. In communist culture, they have those huge buildings, this huge we call it Stalin Barocco type of architecture.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of symbols. And one of the symbols they have is, again, they put those symbols everywhere in their videos, like churches, soldiers, villages, and stuff. And one of those symbols is like, huge metal hand holding a fire in it, and it's like dedicated to fallen people, fallen Soviet soldiers of the World War II. Again, they don't call it World War II; they call it the Fatherland War.
What?
Yeah.
They don't call it the World War II. They call it the Fatherland War that started in 1941 and finished in 1945. Because they don't recognize the World War II.
Wow.
Odd.
Yeah. So this huge hand, and if I'm lucky, I will send you this picture somehow. This huge hand is just hand, growing from the ground and holding a fire. So people from the US, that I spoke to personally, they said that whenever they see this hand, it inflicts fear into them, because what does it remind you? Like hand holding a fire.
Nasty proctologist. Just kidding.
Statue of Liberty, right?
Yeah,
And it reminds them of Statue of Liberty buried into the ground.
Oh,
They have a lot of that.
Yeah. It's symbolism. Yeah.
Damn you all! You
It
burned it
represents
to hell.
it represents the falling of the West, the complete annihilation of the West.
Maybe it references Planet of the Apes. Okay, I'll stop. Go ahead.
It could.
Yeah.
I mean, you could put it side by side with Seth, the monkey Seth King, next to Putin. I'd like to see that. Actually, I see similarities already right now. Well,
so if I'm correct, I'm sorry.
Go
Had a
ahead.
lag. So if I'm correct, operator Starsky, they create a bullshit history that never existed, get you nostalgic over a corrupt church, and they don't recognize that World War II started in 39 when the Soviet Union helped Hitler invade Poland, and that's why. And then they make you defensive of this thing that never existed.
Mhm.
We
Oh
see
yeah.
Mhm.
Claire and I are seeing parallels not only between what Hitler did in Germany with the folk and the fatherland and all of that, but what shitheads do all over.
Yes. Yeah, we are going through some of that history. We'll go back to our shout outs here for Julie Noor for Norwegian Krone 50. Did you hear about the death of Andy and Chris, two volunteers who died in Soledad, Brandon's friends? So sad. Do you know what happened to them, Starsky?
Not really. Not really. I received some message today, but I had no chance to check it out because
Yeah.
this evening I found myself sleeping.
Which is a
Uh,
good thing. Don't ever apologize for that. You don't get enough.
it's
Yeah.
bad
Oh,
because
shit.
it's very bad when you find yourself sleeping unexpectedly and in unexpected places. That's
Mhm.
exactly what happened to me. Like I woke up and I realized that I'm sleeping. So yeah, so actually yeah, I gotta check it out because
We can
I
come back to
heard
that.
that something happened, but I had no
Mhm.
chance to check it out.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure we'll hear about it during the week. From Seth Count, for $10. Thanks for Starsky. I saw you quote it on your vid. I would add to Julie's question. How is Brandon doing about it now? One of them he was very, very close to. But again, I guess that will have to wait until you get your update. If okay with you, Starsky, I'll just continue on. Yeah.
Yeah.
From CF Beauty, for 10, thank you. There is a Hotsol family in the mountains of Western Ukraine that weaves traditional Ukrainian blankets. Do you know anything about them? And are they doing okay? That must also
Uh,
be.
Actually, there's a lot of such families. Even my former mother-in-law, she did that. She made those. She made vyshyvankas, Ukrainian vyshyvankas of a very, very good quality, and she was selling them. I believe that she still does. A lot of people in Western Ukraine do that, and actually, they are very famous because, like, Ukrainian culture is very diverse around, across our regions, our oblasts. And what makes Western Ukraine special is that they have some absolutely different influences from even different cultures. They lived in mountains. Basically, they're our Highlanders, and they have their specific clothes, which are very different from what Ukrainians traditionally were wearing in other regions of Ukraine. Maybe I will dedicate like one of my streams to this because, like, if people are interested at all.
Be interesting. And also you could, I think there might be a link between that and Jewish quilt things.
Yeah, could be. Because again, in Ukraine, Ukrainian people and Jewish people were living side by side for centuries. Jewish people in Ukraine were usually entrepreneurs. They had stores. They had taverns in Ukraine. We called them korchma. And people liked, of course, to gather there with their friends and have a drink or two. And usually Jewish people in Ukraine were kind of rich because they worked hard, and like everybody lived side by side. We all respect each other today as we did like centuries ago.
Kingdom of Poland and Ukraine was a haven for Jews after they got kicked out of France and Germany after the plague.
Basically, yeah.
Know.
Basically, yeah. Eastern Europe Poland, Ukraine, those were places where Jewish people could settle and start their businesses and things like that. Our city of Uman, for example, is very famous for they have a tomb of Rebbe Nachman in that area, and pilgrims from Israel come to Uman every year. Last year they also arrived, and that was specifically the moment when Russians tried to attack Uman using Iranian-made drones.
And the Lubavitch rabbi has a
yeah.
connection to a town called Lubavitch,
Mhm.
which
Yes,
is
yes, by the
in
way.
Ukraine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we have a lot of things in common, actually, and as well as other nations. A lot of native Germans lived in Ukraine as well. We had German villages, we had Greek villages. There's a long ancient story of Greeks and Romans in Ukraine. By the
Mhm.
way, we had this huge site called Chersones. It's where we still have remains of that Greek ancient culture. Not sure if it's still intact, but it was like thousands of years old. So we had quite a lot of different nations living here side by side, and like we were living in peace until some fucker would invade Ukraine and try to enslave everybody.
That would
Okay.
be Russia.
Mhm.
Usually, yeah.
Mhm. Okay, from Zong 110310. Just wanted to clarify from earlier. I appreciate how you explain how Russian propaganda works, so we better recognize and understand it. And I thank you for all of the information. So I'm sorry for any misunderstanding. He doesn't want you to think that he's saying you do propaganda. So there you go. Thank you for the clarification there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's of course like analyzing and creating that mythology, let's say mythological design. It requires, of course, like different knowledge that you don't learn in schools and things like that. There are two, let's say, two main things that Russians use in order to either involve people into doing something, in order to motivate them, or to like implant fear into them. So it's like destructive and constructive mythological design. Those are very complicated. There are different elements that you gotta put together that first of all, if you want to make people think that those people are your enemies, then you gotta convince your people, and you must put three different messages into one message. For example, you should prepare a message that says that those people are dangerous for you. Those people don't bring any benefits to you, and danger, safety, no benefits. Basically, that's what you have to compile into a single message, and you can basically analyze everything they say about Ukraine. You can see all that. And again, if you want to convince people that something is good, like attacking Ukraine is good, it's this message should consist again of three different elements. You got to convince your people that it will bring you benefits, security, and everybody will be happy. And that's what they do. They talk about unification of people. They talk about security from evil West, and protection from cunning America and things like that. So you can analyze all those messages consisting of those elements. They are out there. You can literally read them. As a communications person, again, I know how it works and I can analyze that, but it takes much more effort to rehabilitate people that became victims of this propaganda. Basically, it doesn't work like it's much worse than the propaganda that was created by Goebbels.
Yeah.
Much worse, because they improved it. Russians developed it, improved it, and it's basically like a brainwashing. You cannot just convince people that everything they've been told on a TV for decades was a lie. You have I have no idea what to do. It requires probably some involvement of some kind of specialists.
Yeah.
I
You
don't
must
know
be
how.
quite frustrated. Yeah.
I don't know how to revert those changes back in people's minds.
Yeah. It in your job you have to keep on top of it all too, so it must be hard to see and then see the damage it does. So I really feel for you. From Seth Count, a little humor here for you for 5. I ordered my Russian mail order bride. They are so cheap right now for obvious reasons. Just so I could do a return to sender when she got here. Thank you.
Oh my
Seth.
God. So currently, what Russians do in Europe? Currently, Russians in Europe pretend they are Ukrainians. Like there's multiple videos of Russians driving like cars with Russian number plates and things like that, and people stop them and ask them questions like, "What do you think about the war?" and yada yada, and they're like, "I don't know. I'm Ukrainian, but like you're driving a car with like Russian number plate. So what?" And the funniest thing happened recently in Europe. There was a tour of a Ukrainian ballet theater, and they were posting those huge posts, Odessa Ballet, because for some reason currently ballet specifically in Europe has high demand. No idea why, but they were posting those posts like a lot, and it's a crazy story. One of Ukrainian refugees living in Europe, I will even tell you the country where it happened. So France, it was in France, and Ukrainian who was born in Odessa. Her name was Anna, and she lived most of her life in France. She decided to support Ukrainian ballet specifically because it comes from Odessa, her hometown, right? And she called the representatives of this ballet theater, Odessa Ballet, because during this show that they had in France, they had all kinds of Russian repertoire and like Russian songs and yada yada, and she was like what the hell? It's not Ukrainian ballet, it's Russian. So she called representatives of this Odessa Ballet Theater and the legit one, and she asked like, why do you have so much Russian stuff in your program? And she was told that Ukrainian Odessa Ballet Theater has nothing to do with those people.
Oh.
Yeah. So because like Russian ballet becomes less popular now because of everything that happens, they pretend they're Ukrainians and they make those posters with like Ukrainian flags and yada yada, and they call themselves Odessa Ballet Theater. However, in reality, they may come from Moscow, for example.
Wow. Well, on that note, Ellie J has a message for you for £5. I have just spoken with your Insta clone, who provided a voice clip of you, hello, hello, and he wrote me, and you are live streaming here, Starsky. Yeah, that's a pain, isn't it? Oy. Oh,
Ask myself, how am I doing?
yes. Starsky, how is Starsky doing? Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. I asked the Instagram support to send me this verification badge. I did, all the photos with my IDs and stuff.
Mhm.
But it takes something like a month.
Yeah.
And I also wrote to a PayPal support because this dude gives his PayPal account for
And it's
people to send money to. Yeah, of course, it
and
has
it's
nothing
not
to do with.
you, right?
Yeah, it's Angeliak of something something, and I asked whether they can do anything. I've sent some screenshots, so we are expecting some kind of response about this.
Yeah, it's important for everyone to know if you are dealing with those people, make sure you're reporting them. It does speed up the process. The more people that say that that is a fake account and you can link their real account on what
That's
it
right.
should be, just please report it if you know it. It is fun to have correspondence with them and what's take your shots at them all you will, but don't forget the report at the end to help Starsky. It will speed up the process. The more people that are on his side, that they know who he really is and that's a fake. It'll become more embarrassing for them, and maybe they'll do something besides a month.
Yeah. Hello to Adrian Romanovsky.
Mhm.
He says, hello from Poland to Odessa. There's a super nice opera ballet house. It's true.
Mhm.
I was in Odessa 2 years ago. Or was
Mhm.
it last year? I wasn't there last year, of course. It was like 2 years ago. I don't remember it very much because I was very, very drunk for 3 days. I was meeting my fellows, and yeah, they have some really nice place. By the way, this huge opera house is actually one of the wonders of Odessa. Locals told us stories about this house, and trust me, I was like, no shit, but I was too drunk to remember the details. So you gotta check it out, definitely.
Okay, I'm caught up. Back to you guys.
All
More
right.
questions?
Dave just came up with a great idea, so we dropped it in for the poll there. And let's see here. Time wise, we're okay. There was if I can just click my button and have it actually work properly, this would be really good. Okay, here we go. There was a question that I wanted to it was from Sweet 70433. How do you feel, Starsky, about Belarus and Russia being invited to the Olympic Games?
I feel very bad,
Me
and I will
too.
tell you why. Because uh, nothing can be neutral in regards to war. Every time we invite Russian artists to singing contests, every time we invite Russian participants to beauty contests, every time we invite Russian sportsmen to different competition, we always got to remember that there are Ukrainian sportsmen and singers and other people fighting and dying, and they're unable to participate because there's a war in our country that was brought by Russians. So when Ukrainian people suffer, Russians, because they're not bombed, because they're not invaded, and of course because the West doesn't treat them as fascists, what they always claim, that everybody hates Russians, etc., etc. They are always invited to such events. That's why my reaction is very, very bad. They can do that while we cannot, and it's not our fault that we cannot.
Good point. For
Could
sure.
I, while I've just about got a voice, could I just throw something out there? So I didn't think of this before, but there's some sports stars out there. I can't think of the exact name. Zinchenko, maybe. I can't remember his exact name. He's playing for Arsenal at the minute, so he's top of the Premier League. How are people like him viewed? Is he bringing a positive an impression on Ukraine to a wider audience, just to remind people, oh, this is still going on? Is he sort of shamed or ridiculed in any way because he's not out there fighting, kind of thing?
I don't think that it's bad. Again, it's a very good thing for people like him to be out there, to be outside of Ukraine, and it's important that they can speak to the world and remind them that there's one thing that we should talk about, and we should not pretend that nothing happens. I know that some sportsmen are, of course, frustrated with this. A lot of them returned to Ukraine and fighting. We all know that Usyk and Lomachenko were in the territorial defense for a while, and other sportsmen as well. But again, there's two kinds of war. One war that is fought on the battlefield, another war that is fought in the minds of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we should both protect people from armed orcs, physical orcs, as well as Russian bullshit and Russian propaganda.
Oh, sorry, I was dying in the background. I had a puff on the wrong side. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead there.
No, I was just
man.
about to agree. No, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, Claire, were we all caught up over your way and whatnot? I think we had. Yeah.
I do have a super chat, and I have a slew of questions in regards to Fudge that I'll put all together for you, Starsky, if you have a moment. From Zom for 10, and we'd like to thank you. He says that he hopes that Fudge is doing well. But from numerous in the chat here, from Lisbeth Milligard, we want to know if Fudge is sleeping in your bed.
No, he doesn't, because like he has his own like huge space and a huge carpet, and he does all kinds of crazy shit on that carpet, like dogs always do. And today I bought him a huge bag of treats, so he's completely happy. He's well fed, sleeping. Don't worry about Fudge. I will rename my channel eventually to Operator Fudge. It's already
Operator Fudge. Yeah, he's taking over. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a combination. You kind of answered part of it. But from Rodent, no last name, and from Flash One, they're kind of like, how is Fudge handling winter, and is he having a quiet day or running around busy? Which I think you just answered based on the treats. Seems to be pretty busy. But how's winter going for Fudge?
He likes winter. So he's one of those crazy dogs, unlike me, because I hate winter. He likes winter. He likes to bathe in the snow. He bites the snow, eats the snow, then he spits it out like a crazy idiot. And he's completely adorable at this moment. I think I have a video of that. I made like a couple of years ago. So he's completely fine with winter, and I moved to a new place, a new bunker. You see that I changed my sauna, so he has much more space here, much more area to play at, and and he has a warm shelter basically together with me.
No, that sounds great. I'm glad that you get the joy of that dog running around and giving you what for and side eye and all of that, and a little bit of happiness amongst all of this. It's a little silver lining, and I'm happy
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. Again, like I'm very happy for picking the dog, actually, because dogs are they are naturally the happiest beings out there in the world, and they love people so much. Uh, my dog has opportunity to communicate with other dogs because we have a lot of them in the area. They always talk shit about each other, and yeah, every time I return home, he's like, dude, I'm so happy to see you, like, bro, let's go and do some shit, like, let's
Yeah.
play and let's eat and whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm completely satisfied with the dog. If it was a cat, like, you know, he would be like, you're home.
Yeah, exactly. They're a little bit independent, like unless
Yeah.
they want something from you. But that brings me to a question, just one that's been tossed around, and I kind of see the humor of it from one of our other shows. Well, is there any possibility that you'll do little shorts of like Starsky and Fudge or Fudge and Starsky, like for us? Yeah.
I gotta think about it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because
what a show liner. It was a very popular show here in America, sort of. But yeah, you could play off that well. Yeah.
yeah, I gotta do that actually. Yeah, just, you know, those days are a bit too overloaded with tasks and
Exactly.
stuff. So
Exactly. Well, something future for your channel after. Once Ukraine has won and everything settles down, and perhaps you don't have to put as much time in with the rebuilding. When things get back a little more to normal, you got a new series to look forward to. Rename the channel for both of you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's, you know, there's this Hypnotoad, and this will be Hypnofucha.
Hypnopucha. I like
Yeah.
that. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, back
Is
to
that
you
a
guys.
Futurama reference?
It
Yeah.
was. Yes.
Ah.
He's cool.
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
cultured. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I meant Starsky, not you. He's cool.
Oh, that's funny. We had an idea. I want to pop this quickly to all the viewers. We had an idea where we could put Google Earth as the background of the show. And then when we're talking about news from a specific region, we could have the YouTube chat fade out for a minute and our picture on the screen get smaller and go up to the side or something. And we could zoom in on that area using Google Earth, and then, you know, and so on and so forth. Might be a really cool thing.
Yeah, of course.
Put one in the chat if you want to see us do that, and don't put one in the chat if you don't give a rat's ass, I guess. I don't know.
Wait a minute, Dick. Are you saying that Big Brother just joined as a shill? What?
But yeah, it's a good idea, you know. We could bring it up, it'd be cool. And otherwise we could zoom out and you could have like Google Earth or Google Moon, and then, you know, if we need to zoom in on somewhere, we could fly from the moon. That'd be pretty cool.
Yes, I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah. Hockey
Yeah,
fan.
it's a very wise idea, because like every time we talk about some locations in Ukraine, for example, you know,
That's right.
that are crucial, like Vuhledar right now, you know, and people go like, what the hell is this? So yeah, I think that we should make people acquainted a bit with our geography, because it's very important.
Yeah.
That's a great visual. Yeah.
I love just getting this. Sometimes Sky News will do in the UK just a raw facts kind of. This is the screen, just a 3-minute YouTube video, and it's just bam, bam, bam. Here's arrows. Like this is the direction they're going. It's just so good. Yeah, we should definitely do something like that.
It's just people aren't familiar with geography there, or a lot of the towns that we mention and the areas that we speak about. So yeah, help keep it all straight.
There's an unbelievable amount of ones in the chat, so we're going to get Google Earth, the paid version, so we can do it properly, and we'll be able to do like Street View and the whole bit to really show you what we're talking about. That'd be damn cool, right, Starsky?
Oh yeah. One of the coolest places on Ukrainian map is it's in the Chernihiv Oblast. It's called Honcharivsky, a little town where I was born, and it was a military town. The tank division was located there, and currently it's a hometown for 1st Ukrainian Tank Brigade, armored brigade, and me and my bro, we spent all of our childhood there. There is even a place where he buried 1 kilogram of explosives from a tank shell.
Wow.
Not sure if it's still there anyways, but there were so many things that we did there as kids. This is where I went to the school for the first time back in the Soviet Union, and I remember all that crazy shit. We had a great teacher who actually was pro-Ukrainian, and for what she was telling us, she could literally get arrested, because she was telling us that Soviet Union is basically Russian communists occupying world, and you are Ukrainians, and you should remember that. This is the truth. And when I said that to my parents, they were like, "She's so good," So maybe I will make like some tour, some like online tour for people.
Cool. Very cool.
Speaking of that, like after the fall of the Soviet Union, what TV shows did you enjoy?
There weren't much TV shows. Most of them were Russian, of course, because Russian TV, Russian magazines, Russian newspapers, they were everywhere still. And the coolest TV show that we had on Ukrainian television was, it was called Good Night Babies. And there was Grandpa Opanas, who would tell all kinds of crazy stories. And he was legendary, actually, because he was like an old grandpa, and he was like sitting in this traditional Ukrainian hut and telling all those stories for the kids before going to sleep, and at some moment, I think it even was on air, because because he was an old grandpa, and he had a really hard job, because telling stories to kids, like it's an awful thing, actually, and like you would hate it. So he had some beverage hidden there in his table, and he would usually like and at some show, I believe that's when he got fired, when he told his stories and he wished our babies good night, and it was like on air. I think his mic was still on, and he said "От така хуйня малята," which translates as like, how can I translate it? It's like,
my son could actually. He knows that. He just said this to me recently. Damn it, I should be able to do this.
Oh yeah. And that's when he got fired, and we were so upset, because this Grandpa Opanas, he was a legendary person on Ukrainian television, and probably those were my favorite ones, because I would never go to sleep, of course, after watching those, but they would show cartoons, and they would tell some stories. In Russia, I didn't like that one, but they had like two dolls, doll of a pig and doll of a rabbit, and they were like talking, like puppets. But they were like I felt like losing IQ when I was 5 years old and watching that show. Ukrainian was much cooler. Um, and Moose and the Squirrel. Yeah.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
There was Masha and the Bear is I'm not a fan. Of course, I was old already when they started showing that. I liked watching news for some reason, like no idea why.
Yeah.
And we liked shows like Alf with Ukrainian translation, Ukrainian dubbing, actually.
I remember Alf.
Yeah, and it was legendary because, as I told you previously, Ukrainian culture was so much suppressed by this Russian expansionist culture. So we didn't have a lot of our music, books, shows, etc. And those shows were translated so good. And we have like plenty of memes, plenty of good memories about those shows like Alf, because
Yeah.
those were the ones that actually promoted Ukrainian culture through dubbing. It was done like so perfectly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you have to speak Ukrainian to appreciate
it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so there was Alf, there was Beverly Hills, 19210.
90210. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
That fucking one. Yeah.
and Dylan was my best, my favorite character because he was a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually in the real life, I was married to a freaking narcissist that reminded me. Now she does reminded me of Kelly, actually, and. Yeah, and there were plenty of different shows from the West that were translated into Ukrainian, and I enjoyed them so much.
Cool. Did you guys get Mork and Mindy? What's his name's early show there? Good Morning Vietnam. What? I can't remember his name for some reason. Mrs. Doubtfire. God, what the hell is wrong with me?
Robin Williams.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, Robin Williams. We watched all the movies with.
But did
with
you get his
Howard.
early TV show, Mork and Mindy, when he was the alien guy? It was really screwy. Like it was literally just cocaine addiction on display. The guy was out of control.
I remember something like that. Our most popular shows that were shown in Ukraine were Alf, Simpsons, Futurama. It was Sex and the City, of course, my favorite one. Don't laugh, it's sad. And all women are witches, something like that. Desperate Housewives, I think.
Yeah, that would kind of be All Women Are Witches, because all the women there were witches. Not all women are witches.
Yeah, something like that. Buffy, Vampire Slayer. She was nice. Not my type though, but still. South Park, Beavis and Butthead. Those guys that basically shaped my mentality. That's why I'm so stupid. And they were awesome. King of the Hill.
Oh again. Yeah, we've got a couple King of the Hill gags we use on the channel because they're so good. I have to cut in quick because we've got a couple of donations that came in, and I do believe Claire's all set and ready now.
I am. But before I read the super chat, can I just ask you, Starsky, because I have this little poll over here with the answers from a Cosmopolitan article from way back. Who is your favorite Sex in the City character, lead female of the four?
I think it's like Carrie because she looked like the most normal. Okay, out of them. I think it's her. I like the way she told her story, even though it wasn't her story. But I like the way she said that, and of course because she was a journalist, and I was a journalist as well. That's why I felt like yeah.
Okay, cool.
But
Thank you.
but my favorite character, of course, was Mr. Big because Mr. Big, when his wife left him and he had nowhere to go and no friends to talk to, and then he came to Carrie that was like chilling with her boyfriend, and they both have fights. Fight together because they hated each other. And as it usually happens in Ukraine, like first you fight some dude, then you become best friends. And I think that it's like that like everywhere. And like when they were drinking together after that fight, and they were beat up big time, and that Mr. Big was like, and you like, can you imagine? She left me, and I cannot find her, but she can find me. For some reason it was so funny to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Carrie is the best because like she. Do you remember the episode when she dated like a Russian dancer?
Yes, I do. The Russian dancer who was a Russian dancer. Yeah, Bruce. Yes, I do. I do
Yeah.
remember.
And he
they
was
got
beating
together.
her.
Yeah, and they were meeting, and then they got to be friends, him and Big, which was kind of weird. But yeah, what happens? When was he meeting her?
It's like no, it was like she was dating this dancer, and at some point he slapped her, like he like yeah, and or punched her or something like that. And then she met Mr. Big, and Mr. Big wanted to kick his ass.
He did. Yeah, they weren't friends anymore after that. No, that was
Yeah.
That was quite an arc in the story there. Like that's what I like. I like that you like the Mr. Big character. He had a big arc. But
He's
okay.
awesome. He's awesome, yeah.
So we have some wonderful donations specifically for the drone fund. Thank you very much to LAJ for 49.55 Canadian, to Little Kickin' 2 for 13.34 Canadian, and from Raven 7 another 20 Canadian. Thank you. Those are all for the drone fund specifically. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. And can you reread this as the person didn't hear it and get read out? Another donation from Seth Count. I ordered my Russian mail order bride. They are so cheap right now for obvious reasons, just so I could get to return to sender when she got here. I reread it, Seth, but I want to know when she gets there if she comes with her own toilet. This is important, and you must report back to us. Okay? And then
they never include the manual for some reason.
They don't, right? They absolutely okay. And from MB Bellin donated 22 Canadian. Be well, be safe, stay strong. Slava Ukraine. Thank you very
Slava.
much.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. And yeah, that will be used for very good stuff. For traditionally on the show, we've been doing humanitarian relief with funds towards Ukraine, but we've switched to attack mode. So we're now putting money into things that go boom. So how about that?
Well, yes, we all want the war. We want the right outcome for the war, which is Ukraine to be left alone, get them out of there, give Ukraine their country back, and that's the outcome we want. We need to have the weaponry to do that, unfortunately, because reason isn't working, at all.
Not even close. Not even close.
And by the way, returning to the topic of Ukrainian kit developers, actually, There is a company, the one that I mentioned, the one that delivers airplanes to Australia, for example, for bush pilots, and they are extremely popular among bush pilots. It's a Ukrainian aircraft manufacturer called Aeropract through K. Aeropract, and it's based in Kiev, and a lot of Australian bush flyers use Ukrainian airplanes to fly in Australia. So that's one of the most famous ones, for example.
Thank you. Okay, we're all caught up. Yeah. Oh, except for Starsky, the results of that survey for Cosmopolitan says if Carrie is your favorite character, that you praise intelligent and humorous women, okay, but that you will always be the man in the house. And that, I think I like that. I think that might be true about you.
Excellent.
I freaking love it. Yeah. So I tried to watch the movie, the one that was made. It was very, very sad. Actually, I couldn't watch it. Yeah, but the show was cool. Again, I know that a lot of people will laugh, but it was a great period of my life. I was dating this girl that was a producer on Ukrainian MTV, and we used to watch this Sex and the City together and stuff like that. And it was way before all that shit started happening. So
no, I don't think they'll laugh. It's a good arc of what was the type of television and shows that were going on in America, and they brought stuff in too. There was often they brought in issues too. Sometimes, besides just being entertaining and silly, there was quite like the abuse issue. They brought a couple of other things that were going on in the news industry and stuff at the time.
Yeah, and again, it was a good opportunity to me to learn English, because I watched different shows.
Indeed.
I watched different shows, and I enjoyed watching them in Ukrainian because Ukrainian dubbing was hilarious. It was so much cooler than watching them in Russian dubbing for some reason, because Ukrainian producers put their soul into this. They involved some kind of Ukrainian people, mentioned in those shows, and it was really funny. But then I decided to start watching all those shows again, only in English, and I watched all the episodes of Alf, Friends, Sex and the City in English, and specifically Sex and the City, because it was like it was like a like ordinary communication, right?
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of ordinary communication, Starsky, something that's not so ordinary, Sweets 7433 there in the chat says, Operator Starsky, are you a Trekkie?
Oh, holy shit, what does it mean?
A Trekkie is a Star Trek fan. Do you watch Star Trek? Do you enjoy it?
I'm rather a Star Wars fan.
I was going to say, here comes the great debate: Star Wars,
Yes.
Star Trek. Yep.
Yeah. I like the Star Trek, and again, the actress. What was her name?
From Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek.
Oh, Carrie Bradshaw. That is oh my goodness.
No, not Carrie. Her friend.
The brunette or the blonde or the redhead?
The blonde.
That is oh my gosh.
Amanda.
Why can't I can't remember their names. Holy crap. I'm going to Google.
There was Miranda, Charlotta, and
right. It's funny. I can remember it's Cattrall, Kim Cattrall. That's who it is. Kim Cattrall.
Yeah. So she was starring in the Star Trek and in Sex and the City. So I like Star Trek because people who created Star Trek actually created a lot of things that are used today, like operation systems. for
Mhm.
example.
Yeah.
They created first Windows, like actual Windows, as operation system on their
Their computers and everything. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, as for Star Wars, it was not as, say, realistic, right? But rather it was like a the very lore is
It's more
what.
fantastical, where
Yeah,
Trek gets into the tech and whatnot, and Star Trek just skips over it. Like, what powers your ship? Nobody cares, man. Just go out there and fight. They don't care.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
And I remember that I believe there's one very popular game called No Man's Sky. It was very boring in the beginning. Now I think they changed a lot of things, so you can actually enjoy this game. And it's based big time on those sci-fi books and movies about the space and specifically on Star Wars.
It's science fiction TV shows are a very polarizing topic indeed. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Big Bang Theory, by the way, one of my favorite shows as well.
Yeah. There was a bit of controversy. Big Bang Theory. They did that episode where they had a little remote control Stephen Hawking in a wheelchair, and some people got pissed about that. If you go backwards, before Stephen passed away, he did his own self in a little wheelchair for his Genius by Stephen Hawking 6-part series. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there was anything off or bad about that at all, but sorry, off topic. I'm done.
Well, no, but I think in that point there, Dick, it's important that if you're going to get offended about something, make sure the person actually involved is it really offended, like be on the right side of it. Because Stephen wasn't. He put it out there all the time. He
Totally.
don't be offended for him if that's what you're thinking, because he wasn't like that.
Yeah.
He
even
purposely
said,
kept. I'm sorry.
Oh, he even said in that same episode, he goes, because people don't like to think about themselves as machines, not even me. I mean, the guy had a great sense of humor.
He did, because he actually added onto that, unless it's a really, really cool machine and he'll build it. He knows. He knows.
Yeah,
It's a really,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually had the opportunity to get other voices, but he decided to keep the one that he got in the 80s for that.
Yeah.
Because people were most familiar with it.
Yeah, he even made sure that they didn't change the voice as they upgraded the software and stuff. I love that guy. He was amazing.
I did. I did an interview on him on that topic too. One of the other reasons was not only to change it, it was because the technology was out there, but most of the people using it couldn't afford the new upgrades.
Yeah.
And he wanted the sound of that voice to become more familiar, so people weren't like so upended about it, so that others, that have to use it, children and adults, anyone losing their voice box, it would become just the sound of it. So I praised him for that. He was thinking of some others too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the coolest thing about the Big Bang Theory was, like the pilot episode. It's like when those two nerds were sitting in the sperm bank, and that's actually what caught my attention. Like, after that, I started watching the whole show, and it wasn't as funny. Like the rest wasn't as funny as the first one, but it was so hilarious.
Russell Clement in the chat says, Buck Rogers, 21st Century. I've got that on my server. Oh, yeah. Hawkman episodes and all, unfortunately, but there you go.
Yeah, I completely admire those different sci-fi movies about the future. It starts like this. It's like, black screen, and it says Earth 2008. And you can see like those crazy starships and everything, and people teleporting.
Yeah,
like almost there.
We ripped off the original Battlestar Galactica from 1979 or whatever it is for our New Year's special. We had that. There are those who believe life here began out there, and we did that full intro. It was hilarious.
Lost in Space, by the way. There
I love the
is-
new remake. Wow, it's good.
Yeah, but there is Soviet version of this movie. Of course, it was stolen, and it's like it's about kids who were lost in space. I think it's even called the same. Don't really remember the name of the movie, but basically the same stuff. They got lost, and then they landed on some planet that was inhabited by robots and shit like that. Actually, they stole a lot of movies from the West as well.
Oh, the robots in Lost in Space. How far we've come, like from that first robot in the beginning. Like, wow. That has some shout outs, okay, Dick?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. From Rob Dorman for £10. Hello from Belfast, Starsky. Just wanted to say, wishing you a speedy victory. The Bushmills are on me. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you so much. Glory to Belfast.
Yes. From MB Bellin donated 22 Canadian with the comment, happy hunting. I believe that's for the drone fund. Yes.
Exactly.
Thank you both.
Indeed. Awesome. Thank you very much. Awesome. We're really close to a second one here, and then we're going to do a push right away for a third, and we're going to do a big push because I want to make it as fast as possible. So, that would be very cool. I'm looking at the time, Starsky, there. It looks like we're basically at wrap-up time, isn't it?
Yeah, seems like that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Claire, do you want to take us around and have everybody say some bullshit before we pull the plug and blow everybody to fucking smithereens?
All right. You want me to take it around and get some bullshit? I'll start with Dave then. Dave, how did you find it?
Physically difficult. Oh, excuse me.
I'm sorry about that part. I'm starting.
Fuck you. I feel bad. Thank you. Feel bad. Son of a bitch. No, you're great. Everyone's great. Happy to be here.
Feel better, Dave. Okay.
I could have chosen to do other things, but I persevered. Ukrainian.
You did a great job too. It's an inspiration.
Feel sorry for me.
No, okay. Commander 401. How did you find today? Oh. I don't think Commander's there. Okay, so okay. So I'm sure Commander enjoyed it and just had to step away. So I'm gonna go to Starsky because I really want to hear from you because like Davis disappointed me and Commander didn't show up, and you always bring it. So how did you find today's show?
Wasn't bad. You don't talk about the Sex and the City too often nowadays.
Yep.
So I enjoyed tonight's show as well, and I hope that you did too.
I did. I like Talk to Sex in the City with you. It was entertaining, but I also enjoy and always appreciate all of the information you bring us about what's going on with you, Ukraine. And we're with you. We know it was a really tough week. We know things ramping up against civilians, and we feel for you. And I for one appreciate, and I'm sure everyone here does, what you do for us in spending the time with us to update everybody. So thank you. And bringing a little light. I learned more about you today. Yeah, hell of a guy on top of all of that. Great at your job and pretty personable too. So bring it back to you, Dick.
All right. Well, on that note, I think what we do is remind everybody, you got to do what you can. If you're in a position that's not, financially strong, but you still want to, contribute and help support Ukraine, urge your local politicians to make sure that the governments are doing everything they can, and urge them to cut the fucking red tape because, these delays and stuff aren't doing anybody any good. On that note, we thank everybody for, showing up and watching and contributing and the support. We're really close to that second boom little fly toy, and hopefully we get another one in really soon too. So we'll say goodnight, everybody. Slava Ukraini, Herom Slava, and everybody keep all of those in Ukraine in your thoughts. Good night, everybody. Take care out there. You guys can say goodnight too.
Oh, good night.
99.
I can't.
Boom.
over. Go home.